Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh, and hello to all of you. This is the lecture for chapter 2, flexible budget, direct cost variance and management control, specifically on level 3 variance analysis. I have already covered level 1 and level 2 in the part 1 of this topic, and in this video I'm going to cover just on the level 3 on the variance analysis. In level 3, we are going to calculate another two variance, what we call it as price variance and efficiency variance for direct cost inputs, which means for both direct material and direct labor. And this is the formula. I show you the formula for price variance, or sometimes we call it as rate variance. And this is the formula for efficiency variance, and sometimes the textbooks also call it as usage variance. So for the price variance, the formula is actual price of input minus budgeted price of input and times with actual quantity of input. Okay, actual price of input minus budgeted price of input times with actual quantity of input. As for efficiency variance, the formula is actual quantity of input used minus budgeted quantity of input allowed for actual output times with budgeted price of the input. If you look at this formula, it might be a little bit difficult for us to understand. But if we transform this formula into a columnar format like this, okay, then it will be much more easier and much more sensible for us to understand. Okay, so this is just I transform the formula into like this. As you can see, this is the columnar column style that you should prepare for your assignment, and this is just an example. All right, and in this column we have three columns. The first one is actual cost incurred, where the actual input quantity times with actual price. The second column is actual input quantity times with budgeted price. The third column is flexible budget, where the budgeted input quantity allowed for actual output we times with budgeted price. The difference between actual cost column 1 and column 2 here is, we call it as price variance. The difference between column 2 and column 3, this is efficiency variance. Okay, so and this is what I mentioned, what I want to show you about level 3 analysis. And if we compare between the actual and the flexible, we can get the flexible budget variance, that is level 2 that you already learned in the previous video. Okay, all right, so as for flexible budget, it's just a difference between column 1 and column 3, okay, which makes or which represent the flexible budget variance. All right, now let me explain to you in more detail. We look at the column 1 and column 2. Okay, look at column 1 and column 2 first. This is just a format, so you simply can follow this format in answering this type of questions. Okay, 1, 2, 3 column. Now we look at column 1 and column 2, because column 1 and column 2 is about the price variance that we are going to calculate. If you look at this formula, actual cost incurred, actual cost means it's already happened. Actual input quantity, you know, the quantity of the input that happened times with actual price, you know, the price that has been set, the price that occurred. Column 2 is actual input quantity times with budgeted price. Okay, so if you look at this one, column 1 and column 2 is actually represent this information. Because why? What makes different between this column and this column is just the price. Because here, the focus is on actual price. Column 2, the focus is on budgeted price. So the difference between column 1 and column 2, because what? Because the actual input quantity is similar. This is similar. What makes different between these two columns is just this one is actual price and this one is budgeted price. Okay? Budgeted price is the price that we budget. For example, we want to produce a blanket, for example. We want to produce a blanket, so we need a wool. We need wools for us to produce blanket. There's a price that we budgeted. We planned that the price should be 100, for example. But in reality, the price might be different. The price might be increased or the price might be decreased. So it can be different. So that's why here, the actual input quantity times with the budgeted price, and here the actual input quantity times with actual price, because we want to see the price variance. Okay, so this is just an example. Let's see, okay, in order for us to produce blanket, let's say this is I take an example that I already said. Let's say the company, sports company, manufacture track shirts. Because they want to produce track shirts, so they use, for example, like in the column 1, they use 22,200 square yards of the cloth or the material, okay, for them to make the track shirt. And the price, let's say the actual price is 28 ringgit per square yard. Okay, and the budgeted price that they originally planned, the price is 30 square yard. So as in this case, this is just an example. Once they want to produce the track shirt, the actual input quantity that they use is 22,200 square yards times with the budgeted price, the price that they budgeted, that is 30 ringgit per square yard, so that they can get this figure 666,000. As for this one, the actual price is actually just 28 ringgit per square yard, so the total is 621,600, which means if we look at the budgeted price, it leads to 666,000, but when it comes to the actual price, it is actually lower, not 30 but just 28. But we need to study the reason later on why the price has been reduced. Whatever it is, as in the price variance, we can see that it has been reduced to 621,600, and it leads to the price variance of 44,400 of the favorable result of the price variance here. Why it is favorable? Because the budgeted is higher than the actual, or what I would say that the actual is lower than the budgeted. When the actual is lower, this is a cost related to direct material, and it has a positive impact to the operating income, so that's why it is favorable. Alright, as we can see, the price variance is 44,400, and it is favorable in the sense that the actual price is lower than the budgeted price here. Nevertheless, although we can see that this might possibly give a positive impact towards our operating income, nevertheless, we as a management accountant, we have to investigate further why actually this price variance happened. That is most important things for us to understand the context of this situation, not just simply understanding that there is a favorable or unfavorable without for us to investigate further what actually happened. Therefore, let's have a look at the potential causes why it leads to the favorable situation of the price variance. Alright, I'll show you an example of the possible causes for favorable effects of the price variance. And we as a management accountant have to think further. Is that because of the company purchasing manager negotiated the direct material price more skillfully than was planned for the budgeted? That leads to this lower cost or lower actual cost finally? Or is that because of the purchasing manager switch to a lower price supplier? What about the quality? Yes, we receive lower price material, but what about the quality? Is that similar to the one that we already planned? Yes, sometimes we can easily get the material at a lower price, but the quality might be different, and it will affect the products, the quality of the products, the final products that we produce. So that is also something that we have to consider. The purchasing manager ordered larger quantity than the quantities budgeted, thereby obtaining quantity discount. Is this something that happened? The purchasing manager, they buy in bulk in large quantity, so that's why we can get a discount. Or the direct material prices decrease unexpectedly due to an oversupply of the material. So, or is this the reason? As a management accountant, we have to find out what actually happened. Okay, is that because of the oversupply of the material in the market? So that's why the price has been reduced. The budgeted purchase prices of direct materials were set too high because managers did not carefully analyze market condition. Possibly that when we make the budget, okay, we set the price too high, that is on 30 square yard, and at the same time, at that time, we are not aware that the price actually has been reduced. Okay, or is that because of the purchasing manager negotiated favorable prices because he willing to accept unfavorable terms on factors other than prices, such as agree to accept lower quality material? Okay, this is something we have to investigate. And we also have to think about the potential effects of that causes. For example, if purchasing managers bought in large quantity, is there any effects to the storage cost? Because why? If, for example, we receive low price because the purchasing manager bought the material in large quantity, then we have to think further about the storage cost, where we want to put our stock, which this storage cost might also very expensive, and which eventually will lead to another cost that will basically reduce our operating income later on. So this is something we have to think further. What actually leads to favorable price variance? It doesn't necessarily mean that it is good, because it doesn't necessarily mean that once we receive a favorable price variance, then it means good. No, it is not like that. We have to think further, we have to be critical, and we have to investigate what actually happened and what impact it will bring to our company. Alright, now we look at the efficiency variance. The efficiency variance will compare column 2 with column 3. Column 2, let's see what makes difference between column 2 and column 3. As we can see before, the efficiency variance, the formula is here. And the efficiency variance actually measure actual quantity of input use, how many, the quantity of the input use for us to produce the products, the actual one. We compare with the budgeted quantity of input allowed for actual output, the quantity that we plan. Okay, the quantity that we plan that we want to produce. This one is the actual that we use, the quantity of the input, the actual one that we use to produce our products. And we times with budgeted price of the input. So, as in column 2 and column 3, here, what makes difference, is actually on the quantity. Okay, what makes different is actually here is on actual input quantity. Here is the budgeted input quantity allowed for actual output. Because why? Because budgeted price, both of this column use budgeted price. So what makes different? This one is actual input quantity. This one is budgeted input quantity allowed for actual output. Okay? So as for this example, the actual input quantity, the quantity that we use to produce our product is 22,200 square yards. Okay? As for in column 3, that is the flexible budget, where we compare between flexible budget and actual in this level 3 analysis. This is the number of unit that we produce. 10,000 unit that we budgeted we want to produce. 10,000 unit we budgeted we want to produce, and each of the units will use 2 square yards of the material, which means the total yards that we are going to use for this is equal to 20,000. Okay? Therefore, we can see here that the number of input that we plan to use, because in this budgeted we plan to produce 10,000 unit. So once we produce 10,000 unit, each unit will use 2 square feet, 2 square yards, means that total units of material that we use in this column is 20,000. However, in reality, when it happened, the number of input that we use more than 20,000, that is 22,200. Okay? So it is more than what we budgeted. We budgeted 10,000 unit we want to produce. Each unit use 2 square feet, 2 square yards, but in reality, which means this is the total of 20,000 square yards, but at the end of the day, we use more, that is 22,200 square yards. This leads to the efficiency variance. So if we calculate this, we can see that here the total is 600,000 and this one is 666,000, and it leads to the efficiency variance, unfavorable efficiency variance of 66,000, in the sense that the actual input quantity that we use once we produce the product, the total cost is 666,000, okay, which means that this amount is higher than this, okay, in the sense that this is 22,200. This is we already planned. We are just supposed to use 20,000, but in reality we use more. So that's why in terms of efficiency variance, the one that actually happened is higher than the budgeted, and this cost actually affects our operating income. So that's why we can get here efficiency variance of 66,000, unfavorable situation. Alright, what does it mean? If we look at this example, I repeat again that suppose by using 20,000 square yards per unit, okay, by using 20,000 square yards, we are able to produce 10,000 units. But once it happened to the actual reality situation, we are not enough with 20,000. We need 22,200 square yards of the material, which leads to unfavorable efficiency variance. Means that in reality, we are not that efficient. In order to be efficient, it means that the amount that we budgeted should be similar at least with the one that we produce, or the budgeted should be higher than the actual that actually happened. So as in this case, we can see this is lower than budgeted, and this is something that we don't like this is something that we have to investigate further, and it leads to this 66,000 unfavorable efficiency variance. As we can see here, this is lower. The budgeted input that the budgeted input quantity allowed for actual output is 20,000, but the actual input quantity is 22,200. As we can see here, we should think further why it happened to be like this. Because we already planned that in order for us to produce 10,000 unit, because each unit we just simply use 2 square feet, 2 square yards, so it will lead to 20,000 square yards of the material. But in reality, we actually use 22,200 square yards. So as a management accountant, we have to think further why this situation happened to be like this. Why it is not similar as we budgeted. Is that because of possibly the quality of the material is low? So that's why it leads to the inefficiency in our production. Sometimes the quality of the material is low, so it is difficult for the worker to handle the material and may lead to rejection in certain cases. So that's why it leads to these differences. So this is something that we have to think further why it happened to be like this, and we have to investigate further why this situation occurred. Alright, just now we already looked at the example for direct material. Now we look at the example for direct labor. Okay, as for direct manufacturing labor, this is the example. This is column 1, this is column 2, and this is column 3. Okay, alright, where this is actual input quantity is 9 hours times with the actual price that is 22 hours, because this is labor, so we pay based on 22 ringgit per hour for the labor. For column 2, 9,000 hours is the input quantity that we use times with 20 per hour. 20 per hour is actually the budgeted price, okay, for direct manufacturing labor. Okay, this is column 3. This is the budgeted quantity of input, okay, that we plan for actual output times with the budgeted price. Alright, so we want to produce 10,000 units, and for each unit it will use 0.8 hours. So we budgeted that this 10,000 unit times with 0.8 hours times with 20 budgeted price that is 20 ringgit per hour, and we can get this figure 160,000 here. And this 9,000 hours, this is the actual quantity of the labor that we use times with 20 ringgit per hour. Okay, this is the budgeted figure, budgeted price. We can get here 180 hours, and this is the column 1 actual quantity of input times with actual price that is 22. We can get here 198,000. So simply here we can calculate the price variance and efficiency variance. For the price variance, we can see the difference here. This is the budgeted price, this is the actual price. The actual price is higher than the budgeted. Then we can see the price variance is unfavorable. We planned that the price is just 20 ringgit per hour, but once it happened, we have to pay 22 ringgit per hour. It is higher. So we have to investigate further why it happened to be like this, why the price has been increased. Okay, do we have any problem with our labor? Okay, what about the price that has been set? What about the price that has been discussed with the labor for us to come up with this cost? So that's why we need to investigate further what actually happened. As in the efficiency variance, we can see here, all right, the number of hours that we actually need, the number of hours that occurred is 9,000 hours, while we already budgeted, what we budgeted is that 10,000 units, because we produced 10,000 unit, 10,000 unit times 0.8, so we are supposed, because we budgeted, we just use 8,000 hours. That is what we budgeted. Okay, because by simple mathematics, we want to produce 10,000 unit, and each unit we use 0.8 hours, so simply we need to use 8,000 hours and times with the budgeted price. But in reality, it not happen. We need more than 8,000. That is, we use up to 9,000, which means there is, if we get this calculated, we can get here 180, and this one is 160, which means column 2 is higher. The actual is higher than the budgeted and will lead to efficiency variance of 20,000 unfavorable situation of efficiency variance. If we, right, so that is level 3. And if you look at level 2, this is something you already learned before. Just compare between the actual and the flexible budget. You can see the flexible budget variance of 38,000, where you compare between column 1 and column 3. Alright, now get back to efficiency variance of 20,000. Okay, unfavorable situation where the number of hours we use longer than we budgeted. Alright, so what actually happened to be like this? We are going to look at the possible causes why it happened to be like this, and what will be the impact towards the company, and what we should investigate further. Okay, seems that this efficiency variance is unfavorable, and this is for direct manufacturing labor, so we should investigate that there must be something wrong in the labor, okay, in the direct labor that we use. So here is actually the possible causes of unfavorable efficiency variance. Okay, as a management accountant, we have to check whether workers took longer to make the product because they worked more slowly or made poor quality products that required reworking. You know, this is something that possibly lead to the unfavorable efficiency variance. Okay, workers took longer, possibly to make the product because they work more slowly. We don't know, possibly that the quality of the material is lower. That's why the worker need more time to work with the material. It is also possible to be like that. Or is that because of the managers possibly hired underskilled workers? Okay, because it difference. If for example you use skilled workers and underskilled workers, you know, they are, you know, like in terms of number of hours, for example, let's say the skilled worker can do it faster than the unskilled workers. So this is also something we have to investigate. Production scheduler inefficiently schedule work, resulting in more manufacturing labor time than budgeted being used per unit of the products. So is that because of the planning problem, where the schedule work is not as planned, that lead to more budgeted hours is needed for us to produce the products. The maintenance department did not properly maintain machine, resulting in more manufacturing labor time than budgeted being used per unit of the products. Is it possible that is the cause, that the maintenance department not properly maintain the machine? So once the machine is not in a very good condition, then the workers will have difficulty to operate the machine and leads to this unfavorable efficiency variance. Or is it possible that the company's budgeted time standard were too tight because the skill level of employees and environment in which they operate weren't actually accurately evaluated? So it means that the budgeted hours, okay, that they plan here, that is 10,000 units, so for each unit they just need 0.8 hours. This is possibly too tight for the for them to produce. So this is something they have to think further. Okay, what actually makes this happen? Why this variance happen? So they have to tackle and take action. Is this because of this? Is it because of this? Or is it because of this? So they have to think further and check further and make further action to improve the situation. And also, management accountant also need to study what action they need to do. If they found that the unfavorable variance is due to poor machine maintenance, then the company should possibly establish a team. They need to build a team consisting of plant engineers and machine operators to develop a maintenance schedule to reduce future breakdowns and prevent adverse effects on labor time and product quality. So this is a part of the action that they can take. For example, if let's say the reason is because of the poor machine maintenance, so they should set up a team that specifically focus the task is look at the machine maintenance and make sure that the machine can work efficiently, run smoothly as planned. All right, so that's a part of the action needed to be taken by the management accountant, and how management accountant should deal with people and managers from different departments. All right, that's all for level 3 analysis of variance. Thank you and bye-bye.